My dad fell in love with my best friend. She said they were an old man and a young wife, and true love was everything. I laughed. A 50-year-old bald old man and a 24-year-old innocent girl dared to say it was true love. Sorry, I'm gonna take action. I just got home and saw my best friend eating hairy crabs with her son. Both of them were eating with oil dripping from their mouths and the crabs were sizzling. But those were specially sent to me by my mother. Seeing my unfriendly expression, Su Weiniang raised her head from the mess on the table. Oh, shall we? He made a fuss about eating crabs when he saw them, so I got him a few. I'm afraid he ate them all. Su Weiniang was my junior high school classmate. We had a good time when we were young and were considered best friends in our girlhood. Later, she failed to get into high school and went to a local vocational high school. When I saw her again in college, she was massaging people's feet in a foot massage parlor. I saw that her work was too hard, so I introduced her to my father's company as a clerk. As a result, she climbed all the way to my father's bed and finally squeezed into my house with a bulging belly. My parents wanted to divorce. I looked at them, mother and son, expressionlessly. Su Weiniang smiled at me embarrassedly, and only I knew that there was a provocation behind that smile. I overturned the table, dragged her into the house by her hair, and screamed all the way. I slammed the door and slapped her in the face. You are so pretentious. I will give you 2 slaps as a snack. Okay? His new nose 2 weeks ago was crooked by me in 2 strokes. Of course, he didn't want to suffer a loss, so he kicked me in the stomach several times. 5 minutes later, my dad kicked the door open in a rage, pulled me up from the mistress, and slapped me in the face. Li Ran, are you crazy? My dad was panting heavily and went to check on Su Weiniang's injuries. I raised my head and saw my grandmother standing outside the door holding her eldest grandson. Her eyes were full of disappointment when she looked at me. After all, he is your biological brother. We are all family. What's wrong with eating a few of your crabs? It's so funny that the one born to the same parents is called a biological brother. The one born to my dad and my bestie, I don't know what to call it. I used to think that my grandmother loved me. She was always a kind and amiable old woman, but later I found out that she had been blaming my mother for not giving them a boy. So when Su Weiniang came to the door, she didn't stop me. Stop, instead persuade my mother to give in. I was stupid in my previous life and actually believed their nonsense. Before leaving, my father told me to let him go. If you have the guts to leave, don't come back. You must apologize to Weiniang for what happened today. What should you apologize for? I sneered in my heart. Take your little wife to fix his nose that is crooked to the northern hemisphere. Su Weiniang covered her face and kept groaning in pain. The child next to her screamed at the right time. He is always like this, crying and shouting, and no matter how I coax him, it won't work. I frowned and saw the twitching expression on the child's face and the swinging limbs. I kindly reminded him that it is not good for a child to always scream at this high frequency. It doesn't feel normal. I suggest you check it out to see if he has a neurological disorder. How dare you say that, my son? Su Weiniang covered her face with one hand and struggled to rush over to hit me. Li Ran, that's enough. My father glared at me, and even my grandmother looked at me with a little more disgust. Whoever tries to dissuade others from doing so will be in trouble. Amid the scolding of the elders at home, I ran as fast as I could and went directly to my mother's house. When the door opened, my mother was shocked to see my miserable condition. What happened? Who beat my precious daughter like this? While applying medicine to me, my mother cursed my scumbag father and the mistress, and she wanted to go and get justice for me immediately. I quickly held her down. My mother has a bad heart. On the day the mistress came to the door, my mother was so angry that she had angina pectoris on the spot. Later, a stent was placed in her heart. I can't let her go back and get stimulated again. I hugged my mother's arm and acted coquettishly, saying, "Mom, don't worry about it. I can handle this myself, you go find them. What should I do if they get angry again?" My mother frowned and thought about it, then picked up her phone and transferred 1 million to me, and told me that next time you go, hire a bodyguard and a lawyer to take with you. If they dare to bully my baby daughter, you should give them face. If they dare to make a move, you should fight back. I laughed and said, "I know, Mom." After applying the medicine, my mother asked me with a distressed look on her face if it still hurt. I grinned and it hurt. It was still a little painful, but it was far less painful than the car accident in my previous life when I fell off the cliff and was crushed to pieces. The next day, I went back with a group of bodyguards. The servants saw how serious I was and didn't dare to stop me. They rushed into the living room and saw, Grandma, I took the kids out for a walk, and my dad and the mistress were the only ones at home. When my dad saw it was me, he immediately flew into a rage and yelled at me, "Li Ran, what are you doing? You brought so many people with you. What do you want to do? Get out of here right away." It's really embarrassing enough. It's embarrassing. I looked at him suspiciously. And you still feel embarrassed? I strode in. I only know that whoever cheats in marriage is embarrassing. My dad was instantly furious and rushed up to grab my arm, but was stopped by my bodyguard and went in to pack my things. I winked at the lawyer next to me and rushed into the house with everyone. Su Weiniang was anxious and jumped up from the sofa to stop me. What are you doing? That's my room. I curled my lips and sneered and asked, Your room? My parents haven't divorced yet. This is my home. Please, are you here? Who is this person from your family? I'm returning your room to you. Ask yourself, are you worthy of it? Su Weiniang's face turned pale. Indeed, my parents haven't divorced yet. Although they have been separated for more than a year, the court hasn't ruled for a divorce, so they are a legal couple. My mother is not the traditional wife who has lived out her life with her parents' misfortunes. Her marriage to my father is a match made in heaven, and they are evenly matched. It's just that they got married early, and in the blink of an eye they have been an old couple for more than 20 years. So when Su Weiniang first appeared, my mother was indeed a little reluctant to let her go, always thinking that my father would come to his senses one day and turn back. Su Weiniang shouldn't have provoked me in person and ruined the things my mother gave me. How happy he was yesterday, how disappointed I will make him cry today. I rushed directly into the bedroom, opened the dressing table, and saw a whole row of precious jewelry. Put them all in the bag. Su Weiniang screamed and rushed over to me, saying, Don't touch my jewelry, that's mine. Your jewelry. I swung my arm and threw him aside. What in this house is yours? Not to mention that we haven't divorced yet. Even if we are divorced, according to the current marriage law, jewelry belongs to the woman's personal property. In other words, these jewelry are all hers as long as my mother wants them. I looked at him with a smile. Can you produce any evidence to prove that these jewelry were bought with your own money? It would be strange if he could produce it. If he really has the ability, he wouldn't be a mistress. Su Weiniang twisted her nose. Her face turned pale with anger, and she yelled at my dad for not caring about his daughter. My dad was also anxious and yelled at me through the wall of bodyguards. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why did you bring people here? Can't we just talk it out nicely? I ignored him and quickly packed my things, including the jewelry at home, and even the brand name bags and clothes my dad bought for his mistress. As long as they looked valuable, I took them all away. When I was leaving with my bags, Su Weiniang was screaming and jumping, pulling my bags and screaming like a screaming chicken. Stop him. Stop him. Why are he still standing there? Call the security guard. I looked at my dad with squinted eyes. You let him make trouble like this, aren't you ashamed? You aren't ashamed when my dad glares at me. I laughed and looked at him as if he were a fool. I'm not ashamed. Didn't I just say that whoever cheats in marriage is ashamed? The voices were getting louder and louder, and the rain was getting higher and higher. As I shouted, he also dragged Su Weiniang a few more steps toward the door. At this time, a circle of people had gathered at the door of our house. They were all elderly people in the community and mothers who were out for a walk with their children. They were all well informed. After my shout just now, everyone had an expression of eating melon on their faces. The look they gave Su Weiniang was suddenly indescribable. My father's face became even darker. At this time, a pair of security guards arrived and stopped me and the bodyguard at the door. As a high-end villa area, the security here is really powerful, worthy of being a 5-star property. Su Weiniang saw that she was excited again. It was him who brought people to break into our house. This is considered trespassing. You should call the police to arrest him. I tilted my head to look at the security captain and asked him to get out of the way. Su Weiniang behind me started yelling again. Who do you think you are? Let him get out of your way. He is a security guard protecting you. It is our right as the owners. We need to find out whose house this is. This made me laugh. I asked him with a smile whose house it was. Su Weiniang raised her voice and said, Of course this is your father's house. The company belongs to your father, and the money is earned by him. Of course, the house is also his. After that, Su Weiniang glanced at me triumphantly. She had obviously regarded herself as the mistress of this family. I advise you to go back and have a good talk with that yellow-faced woman. Divorce her as soon as possible. You can give her more benefits now, but it may not be the case in the future. As soon as the voice fell, a figure ran over with sweat on his forehead. It was the property manager of the community. The security captain respectfully made way for him and said seriously, Manager, this woman brought people here to make trouble and disturbed our owners. Do you want to call the police? The manager saw that it was me, and I took a deep breath and hadn't even caught my breath when I heard Su Weiniang shouting from behind. We must call the police. They've made it to our doorstep. What a shame. The property management's responsibility is to protect the safety of our owners, get him out of here right away, and kick him out the next time he comes. However, as soon as he finished speaking, before he could put away his arrogant expression, the property manager wiped his sweat, pushed the security captain aside, smiled, and bowed to me respectfully. "Dear owner, hello. You are the owner of this house, the daughter of Ms. Lin Qingru, right?" Everyone present was stunned. I smiled and said lightly that I was his daughter. The manager's tone became even more respectful. "Ms. Lin has contacted us just now. Are you planning to sell this house, right?" Before she could finish, Su Weiniang screamed, "What are you selling? This is my family's house." "Oh really? Are you sure?" I stretched out my hand, and the lawyer next to me swiped it and took out a real estate certificate and handed it to me. "This is the real estate certificate, and only my mother's name is on it." Su Weiniang turned her head to look at my father. My father began to look at the sky, the earth, and the air. He tilted his nose and acted like a spoiled husband. "Why don't you say something? Who are you calling husband?" I immediately showed a shocked expression. "The one over there is my father, and it was my mother who asked me to come to collect the house." "Who is the husband you are calling? Pull him out so I can introduce him." The expressions of the onlookers were even more interesting. Of course, Su Weiniang didn't know that this house was my mother's premarital property from the beginning. Because of the good location, they got married after the marriage. Still living here, my mom has a lot of assets. She doesn't care about these. But this doesn't mean whoever lives here longer owns the house. My dad's back teeth were clattering. Su Weiniang wanted to say something, but he pushed her back. Seeing that the two were about to leave, I directly informed them that we have decided to sell the house. "Give you a week to clear the house." My dad turned his head to look at me and he ran, "Don't go too far. This is called going too far. There are even worse." I smiled and put away the property certificate. "I will come to collect the house next week. By the way, I changed my name to my mom's last name. Please call me Lin Ran from now on." The property manager sent us to the gate of the community in a kind voice and promised that they would supervise the clearance of the house every day and report to me in time. And then the security captain was dragged to me and apologized to me. I looked at the young man and found that he was unfamiliar. I guess he was new. I only saw my father's family members coming in and out every day. No wonder he made a mistake. I didn't bother with him. Besides, I will come again next week. If a fight breaks out, I may have to rely on the security captain to help me. It is better to forgive others when you can. More friends mean more ways. When I got home, my mother rushed over and scanned my body like a scan. I smiled and said, "Don't worry, I didn't get beaten this time." My mother was relieved. She cooked a table full of dishes for me, and we had a delicious meal. After dinner, I took out my phone and found that the family group message exploded. Su Weiniang reported me in it and sent several photos, saying that I beat her. I almost laughed out loud when I saw the photo. The pose was like a mermaid on the shore, and I beat him up yesterday. But in the photos of him lying on the ground, he was wearing today's clothes with the beauty filter turned on. The main point was that I was pitiful. I was weak and couldn't take care of myself, but I still wanted to be beautiful. Ever since he came into the family and my parents separated, there were no relatives from my mother's side in this group. Instead, they were all Su Weiniang's relatives. Soon I was besieged. Among them was a person named Yang Jian, Su Weiniang's cousin. He scolded me the most and spoke the most harshly. "What the hell is this Li Ran? Do you have any manners?" He hit Weiniang so hard. "He has no manners. This ungrateful person dares to go home and cause trouble. He should be kicked out as soon as possible." Looking at Yang Jian talking nonsense in the group, I remembered that in my previous life, I believed my father's lies. He said that he would transfer 30% of the company's shares to my name and coaxed my mother to divorce him peacefully. However, less than a year later, I had an accident and died in a car accident on the Winding Mountain Road. Now that I think about it, this Yang Jian should have helped Su Weiniang and caused a lot of trouble in the middle. Su Weiniang replied with an aggrieved and tearful expression. "Look how scared my DeBeo is. So pitiful. Grandma coaxed him for a long time. God, I'm so heartbroken." When my grandma is mentioned, my dad's relatives can't sit still anymore and they all jump out to blame me. They say that Li Ran is too similar to his mom in character, too strong and intolerant. The one who said that was my dad's sister, my eldest aunt. My eldest aunt is a very standard Voldemort. She treats my dad like the emperor of the family. Even when my parents got married, my mom's family was obviously financially stronger than my dad, but my eldest aunt just thought that my mom got the upper hand, that her brother was the best in the world, and no one was worthy of him. After my mom gave birth to me, she saw that I was a bitch. The first film, he also complained behind my back, always urging my mother to have a second child, to have a son. Now the mistress gave birth to a son for their family. He directly turned his butt up, and the sky disliked me even more. I heard from my sister-in-law that it was Li Ran who came to our house and made a scene to demand the house, and beat people if he didn't give it to her. Who can stand such a temper? No wonder my brother wanted a divorce at his age. What a guy. He put all the reasons for the divorce on my mother and me, and never mentioned my father's extramarital affair. I have disliked these relatives for a long time, and quickly typed a reply. Are the crabs my mother gave me delicious? Even if I eat them all, I can't stop your love for me. You're a rumor monger, right? I'm asking for the house. How dare you say that? It was originally my mother's house, and it will be yours if you move in. Please have some shame. Even if Yang Jian jumps out, you can't hit anyone. It's none of your business. Besides, who did I hit? I hit a beast that destroyed other people's families. Who are you scolding when Yang Jian is angry? Don't be shameless. I'll throw shit at anyone who jumps out. Who knew that you two have a good relationship as siblings? It's the same if you acknowledge him for him. I slapped a transfer record on it. Yang Jian, right? Do you remember this money? When you were in college and couldn't raise enough tuition, Su Weining used my dad's money to pay for your tuition. The money transferred to you from the bank account, and the note says it is a loan. I would like to ask, have you repaid the money? Yang Jian was silent immediately, but I didn't intend to let him go easily. It would be fine under normal circumstances. My family sponsors poor students with more than this amount of money, but my parents are now getting a divorce and dividing the property. Let me remind you that as a relative of the third party, the money will be recovered in due course. My aunt came out to smooth things over. I said, why do you have to worry about this little money? You are so stingy. I sneered, curled my lips and moved my fingers quickly. Aunt, you should shut up too. Is the small money your money? Just say it's small. I haven't said anything about you yet. They act like elders every day and try to get money from my family. The money for your son's house was also paid by my father, right? It is the common property of my parents and should be recovered. Now no one in the group dared to speak. After all, they have all taken money from my father to a greater or lesser extent, and they are afraid that I will remember them as soon as they show up, and then I will recover it. My mother saw that I was holding the phone with a bad expression on her face, and asked me if the relatives over there were looking for trouble with me again. You might as well quit the group and ignore them. I sat on the sofa and smiled, and put down my phone contentedly. What's there to quit? If anyone wants to quit, they should quit, not me. I'm happy they can't stand me, but they can't get rid of my cowardice. After about 2 or 3 days, Su Weining posted beautiful photos in the circle of friends. She went to the capital to have it repaired. Her nose was made more exaggerated than before, and the bridge of her nose almost pierced the top of her head. She also didn't forget to write a copy to make fun of me. Some people just have no family education, and they can't see their place clearly. A little girl and a middle-aged woman still want to compete with me, but they don't know that some things are destined by fate and you can't get them just by fighting for them. I laughed while watching and couldn't help but raised my hand to give him a thumbs up. Where does his confidence come from? He thinks all the property belongs to him before he succeeds in getting promoted. My sons, it was really hilarious. The next day, I turned away all the divorce lawyers my dad sent to my house. They now want to divorce quickly and live a good life with most of the money, but I don't want to do what they want. I directly asked the lawyer to list my dad and Su Weining as co-defendants, recover the property first, and then file for divorce, and also applied for property preservation. As expected, my dad called me the next morning and asked, Lin Ran, what do you mean? Why are you applying for property preservation? Lin Ran, I corrected him indifferently. Applying for property preservation, of course, is to protect the common property between you and my mom. What else can I do? Don't get me wrong, I mean, well, my dad was choked, and I could imagine his frown on the other end of the phone. The company needs funds to turn over, and once the account is frozen, it will have a great impact on his business. Su Weining grabbed the phone anxiously. What good will it do you if you destroy your father's company? When the time comes to divide the money, your mother will have less money, and it will not do me any good. I raised my eyelids and chuckled. It's enough that it's bad for you. My domineering voice was shaking, and I was furious. Okay, I finally understand. I gave birth to you and raised you for so many years, but it turns out that I raised an ungrateful person. I corrected him. First, you raised me, but you didn't give birth to me. Men can't have children. Second, when you asked my classmate to be your stepmother, you probably didn't take our father-daughter relationship into consideration. My father's breathing froze, and then I heard a bang from the other side. My father smashed his phone. I laughed and got anxious now, but they weren't really anxious yet. On the day of receiving the house, it was strange that my father and Su Weining didn't show up. Instead, my grandmother was alone at the door of the villa. As soon as he saw me, he cursed Li Ran, You jinx! If it weren't for your bad mouth, how shall we get sick? It's all because of you. It's your fault. My precious grandson has suffered. He has to suffer this kind of pain at such a young age. It's all your fault. At your age, you don't care about your manners and face at all. He wants to throw a tantrum in front of me. I feel sorry for him, so I didn't say anything. The incident of correcting the name made me a little confused. I didn't dare to force a breakthrough. Instead, I took people to walk around the community first. I found out the whole story in a few words. It turned out that after Su Weiniang and I had a fight that day, my grandmother took her eldest grandson out for a walk as usual. The child still kept crying. In fact, he had similar symptoms before, but my grandmother never. I didn't take it seriously. I thought the child was lively and active with a loud voice, and maybe he could become a singer in the future. But after calling him for a long time, people around him felt a little strange. There are many mothers with babies in the community, and my grandmother seemed to have noticed something from their sidelong glances. She thought of what I said, and asked my father to take the child to the hospital for a checkup. The checkup was terrible. The child had Tourette syndrome. The doctor said the cause was very complicated. It might be genetic, or it might be abnormal brain structure or function. Anyway, it was difficult to cure. My grandmother couldn't accept the reality. After thinking about it, she put the blame on me and insisted that I was the one who brought bad luck to her baby. My eldest grandson. This guy is even more unfair to me than Doi. My grandmother was sitting at the door crying desperately. She screamed as soon as I approached her. I couldn't stay in the house in this situation and could only go home first. My mother taught me to respect the elderly and love the young since I was a child. I was really a little afraid that she would cry her bones apart. As soon as I entered the house, my father called again. This time his attitude changed again. He said that as long as we could get a divorce as soon as possible, all conditions would be negotiable. I thought about it and understood what was going on. Costs money to treat children. Although my father probably bought a high-value insurance for the child, the insurance money was paid from their joint account. Now, there was a problem with the money for buying insurance, and the subsequent claims would definitely not be smooth. Plus, the account was frozen. How could he not be anxious? My father tried his best to persuade my mother that we were husband and wife, and there was no need to make such an ugly scene. Now the child is sick again, and the treatment requires money. You are also a mother, so let's put it this way. I will give 30% of the company shares to our daughter, and I won't talk about other things. I will give you the house, and you can withdraw the lawsuit and divorce as soon as possible. My mother was using the hands-free mode, and I laughed when I heard it. The house originally belonged to my mother, and after what he said, it seemed as if he had made a big concession. Besides, the illness of the mistress's child had nothing to do with my mother. He actually used this excuse to play the victim and try to make my mother soft-hearted. Do you think we are fools? I snatched the phone away and said, divorce is fine, but how do you divide the money? I've already given you 30% of the shares. What else do you want? His tone was full of displeasure, as if he had done me a great favor and advised me not to be ungrateful. I glanced at my mother and said in a firm tone, 30% of the company's shares. You just want to help the mistress to take the position. I'm sorry, I don't want it. Just tell me how to divide the property in the divorce. My dad grunted for a long time and couldn't say a word. Then how about 30% and 70%? I chuckled and said, my mom's 70%. Are my dad kidding? Then there is no need to talk about it. If you don't withdraw the lawsuit, I'll see you in court. I hung up the phone quickly. I wanted to see who was anxious. It wasn't me and my mother. As I expected, my father's company and the illness of the mistress's child could not afford to delay. My grandmother made a fuss at home every day and cried everywhere that her precious grandson was going to be dragged to death. In the end, the division of property was discussed at 40% and 60%, with my mother taking 60%. After all, my father was the party at fault and he could not win in court. On the day of signing the agreement, I went on behalf of my mother. After all, he had a bad heart and could not be stimulated. I was the full agent. The door of the company's conference room was closed. Su Weiniang yelled at me with a sullen face. Are you satisfied now? You took advantage of my child's illness to share so much money. Aren't you afraid of losing your conscience? I laughed and said, you are not afraid of losing your conscience by being a mistress, so what should I be afraid of? Su Weiniang's face turned pale, and she was trying to make trouble for herself. No, I just fell in love with a man, and he happened to be married. Besides, he and your mother have no feelings for each other for a long time. I nodded frantically. Yes, you two are in true love. You don't want anything but his age and the fact that he doesn't take a bath. My dad's face turned green when he heard this. He coughed violently and let Su Weiniang go. Ing, shut up. I was too lazy to argue with them. I went straight into the meeting room and started to confirm the division of property. I didn't turn a few pages before I saw something fishy. My father's attorney actually gave all the valuable antiques in the house to my mother to offset the assets. I drew out those clauses. I didn't agree with them. I don't know anything about antique collection. You should keep them for yourselves. Su Weiniang snorted coldly and said to me, "These are all high-quality assets. I give them to you, but you don't want them. You country bumpkin." I smiled and said, "You are not a country bumpkin. Keep them for you." My father and Su Weiniang I winked and he shut up. I pointed to a few other assets and exchanged them for antiques. After signing the agreement, Su Weiniang laughed at me and said, "You were stupid. You were really stupid. Do you know how valuable these antiques are? You got an extra 20%. Look how happy you are. In fact, we can just sell them and get the money back." He stood up and looked at me arrogantly, his eyes full of pride. I lowered my head, packed up my things, and left the meeting room with the lawyer. The moment I went out, I couldn't help but grin. You can just sell them and get the money back. Dream on. Deal with it. After my mother's divorce lawsuit, I returned to school. Before the divorce lawsuit, I had just finished my postgraduate entrance examination. Now the results are out. I did well, so I chose a very good tutor in my field. However, I heard from others that Professor Yen has a very high threshold for recruiting people and the competition is also high. During the period of waiting for a reply, I was indeed a little nervous. As a result, a few days later, my classmate Jiang Shaoqin found me and said, "Lin Ran, you have been posted on the school's confession wall. Did you know that? That person said that you had an improper relationship with Professor Yen in order to study for a master's degree. Someone saw you go to I booked a hotel room. I had never even met Professor Yen." I immediately responded that someone was spreading rumors about me. I had encountered this before in my previous life. When I was choosing a mentor, this rumor suddenly popped up. I went around refuting it and proving that I had nothing to do with this mentor, but it was all in vain. 3 mouths make a tiger, and gossip can melt gold. In the end, Professor Yen did not choose me. Whether it was to avoid suspicion or for something else, no one could tell. Of course, I knew who did it. The timing was too coincidental, and the other party was also very clear about my movements in school. After eliminating all the impossible, the target was pointed at a person, Yang Jian, who was in the same school with me, Su Weiniang's cousin. I couldn't lose the opportunity so unclearly, and also be slandered by others. This time I must make him pay the price. The way of refuting rumors everywhere was not working. I chose to call the police directly. When the police came, I burst into tears and said that I was forced, but I had no recollection. Someone saw me and that person checked into a hotel and posted it on the school's confession wall. I cried while standing, cried while sitting, and when I was tired of crying, I lay down for a while and then my eyes were empty, muttering that life was hopeless. The wind was so cold at night. I wanted to go to the rooftop. The school leaders, they were all shocked and wanted to send someone to watch me 24 hours a day. The strength of the internet police should not be underestimated. In less than half a day, the poster was found. I didn't know this person when I saw him. The male classmate was also scared and hurriedly distanced himself from him, saying that he heard it from Yang Jian from the next department. Because we chose the same tutor, my chance of winning was greater than his, so he wanted to kick me out in advance. I could let him fool me. After the police brought Yang Jian over, I started to act directly. The tears on my face never stopped. "Comrade police, this kind of thing has ruined my reputation in my studies. You must help me get to the bottom of this. We can't let the criminals go unpunished." The police comforted me while asking Yang Jian, "Tell me what happened quickly. This matter is very serious. You can't just keep it a secret." Yang Jian was sweating profusely. His face was pale. He was a college student after all. Of course, he knew the consequences of throwing dirty water on his tutor and giving false testimony. When the time comes, he will be sued for defamation by the industry giants. His fate will be 1,000 times worse than spreading rumors, and his career for the rest of his life will be basically ruined. He didn't dare to. Yang Jian gritted his teeth for a long time, and finally said dejectedly that I was talking nonsense. It didn't happen. How could I let him go? "Police comrade." I pulled. He held the arm of a policewoman next to him. "It's impossible. He must be under pressure from his tutor, so he dared not tell the truth. Please help me persuade him." Yang Jian panicked and explained, I just made up a rumor." "No, you did, otherwise how could you be so sure? You even said which hotel you booked the room in so clearly." "I really didn't, but you did." In the end, there was no other way. The police started to check the hotel in the rumor, including our itinerary. They checked for 3 days and found nothing. Various evidences showed that Professor Yen and I had no relationship. But the good news was not just this one. Although the police did not find my hotel check-in record, but we found Yang Jian's records, which showed that in just 1 month, he had brought several different women here at different time periods. When the police asked him to identify only people from the surveillance camera, I was among them. There was a woman wearing a hat and a mask, and her figure looked a little familiar. In the video, Yang Jian was hugging that woman, and the two were very affectionate, flirting in the hotel lobby, and then hugging each other upstairs. I went up and took a closer look, and almost laughed out loud. Wasn't the woman next to Yang Jian Su Weining? The police asked him who the masked woman was, and Yang Jian stammered and couldn't explain clearly. Yang Jian knelt down and begged, with snot running down his face. I was crying and begging the police not to report this to the school. I felt sorry for him. So pitiful. When I got home, the family group was lively again. Yang Jian's mother tagged me crazily and asked me if I had put her son in jail. Lin Ran, you are not a human being. Your parents are divorced, why don't you let my son go? He just said a few fair words for his cousin, but you hold a grudge against him. It was just a few jokes between male classmates. Do you have to retaliate against him like this? If it affects my son's studies, I will never forgive you. It seems that he doesn't know the real reason why Yang Jian was arrested. Of course, I won't do that either. I told him, and he really lived up to everyone's expectations. He ran to school the next day and threw a tantrum at the door of the school leader's office, insisting that I had framed him because of some personal matters at home that had offended a female classmate, and he had said a few wrong words, and that was why I had detained his son at the police station. Originally, the school leader only knew how to spread rumors and didn't know about the detention. Later, he kept making a fuss and insisted that the school give him an explanation. The school leader had no choice but to call the police. When the police arrived and announced the reason for the detention, everyone was dumbfounded. Yang Jian's mother remained silent after returning from school, but Su Weining continued to fan the flames in the group. As a girl, she reported the case. It's not a good thing to be so resentful. Just look at his mother. Even her own husband couldn't stand it and insisted on divorcing him. Then, there was a lot of attacks and condemnations against me and my mother, which lasted for half an hour. I smiled as I watched them finish talking, and then slowly replied, "Don't you know yet? Yang Jian was not arrested for spreading rumors, but for soliciting prostitution." Before they could react, I posted the video of the hotel lobby. There was a long silence. The group was dead silent. Later, I heard that my father's house was in chaos all night. Su Weining's nose was crooked again. A few days later, the nightmare, then the rumor came that the child was not my father's, but Su Weining and Yang Jian's. After the rumor, Yang Jian was expelled from school. All his years of college were in vain, and he also had a criminal record. When the truth was revealed, Su Weining could no longer stay at home, so she eloped with Yang Jian. While my father was not at home, she stole several priceless antiques from home and wanted to run away. It was their bad luck. Halfway through, they found out that those antiques were fakes and could not be exchanged for money at all. And I knew long ago that those antiques were a trap set by my father for me. He had already colluded with the fake antique maker. The essence was to transfer property. If I had been fooled at the time, I would get a lot less money and get a few fake goods. But I never expected that the trap that was originally prepared for me would end up being walked into by Su Weining. When my dad learned that the two had run away, he was so angry that he couldn't breathe. He had a stroke in the middle of the night and was admitted to the hospital. After my mom found out, she sighed for a long time. "Your dad is so unlucky. If he had known this would happen, he would not have done it in the first place. It was all his own fault." A week later, I went to the hospital to see my dad. Through the glass of the ward, I saw my dad lying on the bed with crooked eyes and a crooked mouth. He seemed to have aged 10 years overnight, and half of his hair was white. My grandmother leaned against the bed to take care of him. She, on the small bed next to her, was the screaming child. The loving look on the old lady's face had disappeared, leaving only a face full of hostility, and she would start swearing at any time. When Su Weining and Yang Jian ran away, they did not take the child with them. This precious grandson was finally left to his most beloved grandmother. I shook my head, and when the old woman looked out the door, I flashed out of the hospital. There was no news about Su Weining and Yang Jian as soon as they left, but I knew that these two people were not arrested. The matter of arrest was not over. About half a month later, the community security guard told me that when he was watching the surveillance, he found someone. When I returned home, someone was following me. So I went to the property management to check the surveillance and saw that it was indeed Yang Jian. After he saw me enter the house, he sneaked back to the underground parking lot. When he appeared for the third time, I knew what he was going to do. He wanted to tamper with my car and put me to death. In my last life, they wanted my shares, and in this life, they want my life. I had someone change my car film overnight, from white to matte black, and the license plate that I had prepared to change before also came in handy. Then, I handed the car over to a car rental company that specializes in cross-provincial business. After some operations, the car finally came into Su Weiniang's hands. The guy at the car rental company told me that the two were quite happy when they drove the car away because the price was really cheap. What happened next was up to fate. If Yang Jian did anything to my car, they would have to bear the consequences themselves. After all, I was just renting out the car to make some extra money, and I knew nothing else. The next day, I saw on the news that on the national highway out of the province, a vehicle suddenly had brake failure while driving, and the entire car flipped over from the highway bridge. A man and a woman in the car were all smashed to pieces. They finally experienced the feeling of being smashed to pieces. When my mother found out that it was my car that had the accident, she was shocked, and later she even drove the car away. They don't let me drive by myself and hired a driver. They check me again and again before I go out, and they also assign me 3 bodyguards. I am speechless. My mother is fine now, and the people who wanted to harm me have got the retribution they deserve. We will live in peace from now on. Moreover, I am in school every day now, and there are always several bodyguards around me, which is not right. If Professor Yan sees me, he will have an opinion. By the way, I have successfully been admitted as Professor Yan's graduate student. Fortunately, Professor Yan is as rigorous as his name suggests, and he did not have any opinion on me because of the rumors. Now I follow him to do the project and learn in the process. I have learned a lot of things and made great progress in academics. My life is peaceful and fulfilling. Sometimes, I even forget what happened in my previous life. I just feel that the pain seems to be getting farther and farther away from me now. Later, I saw my father at a project launch conference. He has recovered well and can walk slowly on his own. The family company still needs him to support it, but I don't know why. The original high-spirited energy in him has completely disappeared, as if his core has been drained away. The matter of Su Weiniang and the child hit him hard. After seeing me, he sighed, and the expression on his face was I felt so pitiful and sad. I turned around silently. It was really hypocritical to talk about forgiveness and father-daughter love now. The moment he chose the mistress and her son, my relationship with him was over. In the 3rd year of graduate school, I took my mother on a trip during the holidays. When we came back, I found that something was wrong with him. He was always holding his mobile phone and grinning. I asked his mother if he was in love. He hesitated. I raised my eyebrows. It was the handsome old man I met at the wishing well. My mother pursed her lips. How could he be old? He looked so young and tall. I saw that it was over. His elbows were bent outward. He was in love first. Zhao, I coughed lightly. Mom, it's not that I don't want you to have a relationship. It's just that there are a lot of scams on the internet now. I'm afraid you'll be cheated by a rich woman like you. He didn't ask you for money, right? What kind of money can he ask me for? My mother twisted her body and proudly checked the payment records. They were all given to me by him. He gave me red envelopes to spend money. Don't look down on him. He is richer than me. I looked at the series of transfer records and finally understood why there were so many luxury goods in the house recently. I remember that my mother didn't like this originally. It seems that they were all given by this handsome old man. No wonder my mother was embarrassed for a while. Finally, I mustered up the courage to ask me what if I meet someone I like in the future and want to form a new family with him? Will you feel awkward and unacceptable? I didn't even think about it and said it. He elbowed my mother and his expression was very serious. He thought I disagreed. I blinked and told him how could that be. Mom's love is an ability to create happiness. And I always feel that my mother will meet a better person because she deserves it. After saying that, I saw tears flashing in my mother's eyes. I turned on my phone and handed it to my mother. What's Uncle's phone number? Let's add him as a friend first. The whole text is over.